Good morning, you guys. It's your boy Bill Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the basketball community. If you want more basketball content, tune into Basketball Conversations every Friday night, 9 p.m. Central Time. This is where we discuss basketball related topics, news, debates, and everything else in the world of basketball. And every Monday through Friday, I will also put in a historical perspective video on great players, teams, playoff series, whatever you want me to do. Just all you got to do is just type in into the comment section what you want me to do, and I will make a video on that ASAP Rocky. All right. So this is going to be a little bit different for this video because this is going to be talking about the NFL. Now, I haven't watched the NFL in about a year or two, which I don't plan on watching anyway. But the NFL has been apparently making some changes to itself, and it looks like to me they're changing their stances on social justice. But I don't believe them at any circumstances. Now, there's two major stories that has happened this week, and I'm going to break them down into two separate sections here. Okay, so here's the first one that has been kind of the longest running debate for decades. Okay, um, after basically going through a lot of PR pressure, um, Daniel Snyder and the Washington organization are finally ready, likely to going to change the name of the R word, which is formerly known as Redskins. But I'm not going to say the actual word in this case. But basically, after being pressured by their endorsers and sponsors that they were going to basically jump ship if they didn't change the name, apparently it was enough for Daniel Snyder, the owner, to pretty much make the change for it. And this is what he basically had to say through a statement that was basically presented by Adam Schefter of ESPN. End quote. In light of recent events, excuse me, in light of recent events around our country and feedback from our community, the Washington Redskins are announcing the team will undergo a thorough review of its team name. This review formalizes the initial discussions the team has been having with the league in recent weeks. We believe this review can and will be conducted with the best interest of all in mind. All right. So this is and here's a little bit more of what Daniel Snyder had to say in light of the death of George Floyd back in Memorial Day. End quote. This process allows the team to take into account not only the proud tradition and history of the franchise, but also input from our alumni, the organization, sponsors, and the National Football League, and the local community of its proud to represent on and off the field. I call that basically PR language. Here's the thing, though, guys. Here's the thing. This has been a topic of discussion that's been going on basically for decades. All right, since the team moved from Boston to Washington back in the mid 50s and the 60s, something like that. This has been the biggest topic of discussion for a very long time, and at at some point in time, they knew that this day was going to come. They knew that they couldn't keep the original stance anymore, and because of all the stuff that's going on around the country, and basically with their sponsors ready to jump ship that they weren't going to change the name, they forced them to change. Now, when Jack Kent Cook owned the team, he was pretty much hell bent on never ever changing the name of it whatsoever. And on varying occasions, a lot of Native Americans groups protested outside of JFK Stadium or even anywhere in the Midwest to voice that this dissent. Okay, and I remember a lot of the older Minnesota fans remembering Super Bowl 26 that took place at the old Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, which is now the location of U.S. Bank Stadium. Um, Native American groups from the Dakotas, Montana, different different areas came out to Minneapolis to basically protest the NFL and basically the commissioner and the owner Jack Kent Cook to basically let them know that this name is actually very very racist. Because if you look at the context of the name, the word Redskins, it's basically the implication of the N word when you basically call them the Washington N word. Okay, and this is not an issue that affects black people as much though, but it does affect how it views the league as in sorts. And when Daniel Snyder bought the team in '97, there was some optimism from many people that you'd been a new, fresh, young head that could probably make some sense and probably endorse the idea. Well, he didn't. and he was hell bent on never ever changing the name of the team, basically for life. But after basically throughout the whole decade of the 2010s of nonstop protesting and petitions to basically change the name, there's a lot of the different organizations were kind of slowly, moving themselves away from the Washington football team. And it wasn't until FedEx and Nike threatened to pull out that they finally got the message that, listen, we need to really consider changing the name, because if it wasn't for that, they weren't going to ever change the name. I'm telling you. Listen, money controls everything, and a lot of these owners are driven by money. They want to make as much money as possible, and that's why I didn't buy into the statement at all. Like when he basically said that we're basically taking into account into the community stuff like that. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. All you cared about was your dollars, because that's what it comes down to. These owners care about their money. And if they lose a lot of their sponsors and their advertisers because of the fact that you weren't going to change the name of your football team, it was going to ruin your business. That's just the facts, okay? And so I didn't believe it. I'm not saying I'm not saying that they're going that I don't believe that they're going to need to change the name, because they are, but I don't believe the initial statement to be very very open handed, as I kind of put it. All right, so that's the first one. The second one that I also wanted to talk about too was is that the National Football League was also is going to finally enlist the Black National Anthem. It appears so starting this upcoming season, if there is going to be a season because of the pandemic, that they're going to start playing the Black National Anthem, which is basically the slavery national anthem that a lot of people don't know about. I've heard it about a couple of times, but it's kind of a little it's kind of forgotten in my head though. But they're going to start playing that before they play the actual U.S. National anthem. It's basically in response to the NFL, finally waking up to how wrong they were when it came to the Colin Kaepernick situation. Like I said before, when it came down to both these situations. Now I'm going to combine it into two ways. Into both things here. Okay, I think that the peer pressure of the league was too much for them to tackle. Because if they would have kept the same old guard and the same standard, they would have lost millions. And the the majority of their football players is about 70 to 80% black. All right. And the NFL could not risk. They couldn't risk losing all of their players due to this issue. Okay. They saw what happened to Colin Kaepernick. They saw what this man basically was willing to go through to basically enlighten about the issue here. And it was never necessarily about the flag at all. It was merely it was primarily stating the issue about social oppression against black people. And after George Floyd's death, came into occurrence. Not just that, but also Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, all these other deaths. It really brought much more major awareness to what it is right now. And a lot of these different corporate businesses, they're taking advantage of the opportunity to make the quickest dollar available, because they see that the black dollar is perhaps right now the strongest it's ever been. All right, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to jump on that. And here's another little bit of an example too. Even the SEC/the NCAA threatened the state of Mississippi that they were not going to play any of their football games or sponsor any football related events if they did not change the flag, which meant that the Mississippi flag also had the Confederate sign in it. Well, after huge political pressure, they were forced to change the flag. All right. So don't. So here's the bottom line to this. There's going to be people out there that's going to say like, oh, they're just doing this to make a quick buck. It ain't fair that they're changing all that. Well, guess what? Times are changing right now, and these businesses, they're basically trying to catch up with the times at this particular point, because they know if they lose the black consumer, they lose their entire business. That's just how it is. America has been built by racial capitalism. That's how they've been able to survive and make their money off of the talents of black people. If we learn how to be independent and be our own business, we can run things here. That's what we need to do here. But back to the subject in hand here. Don't mean to go off track a bit. I don't believe the NFL to be very sincere at all. I tend to think that the NFL, they just did this to try to protect their own behinds in this whole situation because they knew they were wrong. They knew they were wrong, but they didn't want to admit it. And now, after what has been going on over the last few months, they had no choice. They had literally had no choice, and they never are going to acknowledge Colin Kaepernick's name because of the lawsuit that they because of the lawsuit a couple of years back. But trust me, the influence of Colin Kaepernick and what he did during that protest 3 or 4 years ago has had a profound effect. All right, and so I really tend to think at this point the NFL is on catch up mode with all the other sports leagues at the moment. Okay, and I don't believe that they are sincere about it. They're just doing this to maintain their own status quo and to maintain their basically the consumers that they still have. And so that's what basically what it is. And I found it very you know alarming how a lot of these owners are not speaking up about this. That lets you know what time it is, on how they think. Because most of these owners are basically endorsers, and also they donate money to, guess who? The Donald Trump campaign. So you know what their allegiance is at, particularly with Jerry Jones. You know that he donates a lot of his money to basically to the Donald Trump campaign. So you know why Jerry Jones has not spoken a word about this, because he knows if he says anything controversial, that's going to cost him his business. You know what I mean? He's not going to be cost of ownership unless the NFL decides to go the Donald Sterling route. But but I highly think they're going to do that. But both of these instances, both the Washington Redskins name change and basically playing the Black National Anthem thing, it's just business for them. It's all business for them. So I don't believe to be sincere. I don't think they are sincere about it. They're just doing this to cover their own financial backside, and They're trying to save face at this moment. That's all there is to it. All right, and I grew up basically hearing the Washington name, as common, but I didn't understand how offensive that was until I was in college and I understood what it was. And so they have to change the name. I mean, there's just no way. There's no other way to spin it. They have to change the name. It's been there for too long period of time, and it's very offensive to Native Americans. It just has to change. I mean, there's no debate about this at all. All right. So that's just my 2 cents on both of those, situations. So, you know what I mean? I just tend to think overall they're just doing this as a PR move. They're just trying to protect their backside. That's what I believe in this whole matter, and they're not sincere about it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section.